Okay, guys, hey, and welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today I have a really special episode for you where we'll be looking at Mirage luxury travel products. They were established essentially and based out of Nevada in the USA, and they specialize in crafting travel cases and displays for watches and formal accessories, pretty much focused on serving watch lovers and dapper business travelers worldwide. Now, these are two examples from their larger storage options, and they do cover kind of on the, whether being used at home or on the go. So that's a lot of fun. We're going to be looking at their watch box with a cool little insert travel case in the carbon black, which goes for $109, as well as their 6-watch case in espresso brown with an ivory white interior that also goes for $109. Now, this isn't my first time experiencing Mirage products. I've actually personally bought stuff from them on their Amazon store because they have a really good balance of price point, right? Like value wise, and then quality. Like it's actually very solid and very comparable to some mainstream pieces. Now, this isn't going to be super high end luxury level of materials or fit or finish, but it's so good that it definitely competes with stuff twice, 3 times the cost. So it just goes to show you how expensive these storage solutions can be, especially for larger options. And the watches that will be featured today are going to be chronographs because they're a bit larger. So I thought, why not use that to showcase these and really put these to the test, because you're not really going to find anything out in terms of limitations or ergonomics using a bunch of small, skinny dress watches. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, so as you can see, 2 very cool options. Here's the one that is pretty much, I would say, I would say it's dedicated to travel, but this is definitely something to where you could still store your stuff at home. I have watch rolls full of watches that don't go anywhere. It saves a lot of space to store them when you do have it in a solution like this. Versus here, you see a dedicated watch box there, which is definitely meant to be stationary, but it also comes with this really neat little on-the-go piece here. Now, in terms of the watches that are being featured today, they are all mechanical chronographs. And these are all from my personal collection in terms of what I've accumulated over the years. I know I spend a lot of time, kind of showcasing dive watches, adventure watches, kind of within that space, and of course tons of Seikos. So I figured, why not share something a little bit different with you guys in terms of seeing it all at once. Here we have a lot of Swiss-powered chronographs, and then here actually Seiko NE powered movement, or powered chronographs here. They're all mechanical as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at this awesome watch box first. So we'll close it up, close that, and yeah, you can see already nice features. They call this carbon black. It's not necessarily like a carbon fiber weave or anything on there, which I actually am glad that it's not a carbon fiber weave, because that's I feel like it can be a bit dated at times. So I do like that they just did kind of a crosshatch pattern throughout, so it does get some texture. It is, of course, nice and dark and black. You have an emblem here for Mirage. You also have that marking there, and you can see it says make every minute count there, which is pretty cool in terms of from within, giving you a nice little message. Another thing that I will say is pretty cool is these are actually angled. So it's not like it would sit flat like that. You can see there's actually an angle, so they lay facing towards you. So it is definitely more on the display side. But one of the limitations of that is if you have a really large watch that is pretty thick, you're not going to want to put it in that front row because the clearance is going to be a little tight. Here, this actually clears, but that would be kind of the limit. Let's say we now take this and swap out into, check out that beast. It's a diver and a chronograph. So that's going to be very, very thick. And because that, it's not sitting like this, it's sitting at an angle. Now you got the bezel basically right where that door is going to want to land, so it's not going to close. So something to keep in mind for those of you with larger watches, thicker watches, and bigger collections. Of course, they're going to fit perfectly fine if you just don't put them in that front row. You also do have this back row here, which has a different size cushion, so you don't confuse your cushions, and that stays there, which is pretty smart. And I think it's smaller, also makes it easier to grab and extract out, which is nice. Or if you have a smaller watch, you're storing your wife's watch or something like that, your significant other, and they have a smaller wrist, you have that little spot that's great for them. And then, of course, the nicely integrated travel spot. And then you see, of course, my Seiko chronograph. So that is really cool in terms of those basic features. But another piece that I really like here is that, hey, in terms of space, you do get a nice bit of usable drawer here. Look at that. It comes out very far. It doesn't fall out or anything. It's actually stationary in there. You could put rings or whatever and link pieces if you wanted to here, and then maybe a couple of bracelets. I just put a couple of straps in here, you know, whether they be from Haviston or Crown and Buckle, or I think I might even have an Artem NATO strap mixed into there. Then I just put a little tool here that is easy to kind of just slide in, a good slot for anything like that. So very usable, nice and compact, right? I mean, this is obviously pretty big, but I mean, considering how much it actually holds, I think it utilizes space very well. I do have some, you know, large storage situations going on in my place. So something like this is, I think, very smart. Of course, you are going to need some clearance for it, right? Like, you can't really put this on the bottom shelf. I mean, you could, but it kind of takes away from the fact that it has a display top. Now, on kind of the other side of the coin, you have this right here, which is going to be a lot more versatile for travel. And if you, of course, go to a local watch meet or something like that, you can put it on display, which is pretty cool. You can just tuck that there. You got the branding nice. You got the watches sitting there, very pretty. I will say, though, because of the angle, the watches that are sitting in this front row are actually going to be quite sunken in. So from a display perspective, obviously not quite as display friendly, although the back row, when you do have that up, is going to look great. But these are going to be sunken in, and it's actually a good thing because now they have a lot more protection there in case this isn't a suitcase or something and it falls over. Also, you're getting a ton of clearance in between, something I do want to note there, guys. So as you're pulling these in and out, you don't have to worry about, you know, the clasp of your hardened German chronograph hitting the sapphire crystal of the watches behind it. And again, these are chronographs, so quite thick, and you're going to be able to, you know, put these to the test in terms of clearance because of how thick these are. Even here, you have almost like a dive style clasp, which is quite thick, and it's not coming into contact with this watch behind it. So I think that's really nice, well thought out. Also, you do have quite a large surface area if you did want to, let's say, lay things out. If you're working, you know, on your watches while traveling. Oh, snap, almost let that roll. Luckily, the table's pretty large, but the nice thing is you can have this surface essentially as a working surface, and check it out, it's nice and plush, so all the fingerprints and whatnot from my hands touching these watches are all easy to wipe away. And there's actually a way that these sit where it's a higher meteor portion on the underneath, slightly thinner on top, and that's so that these can be a bit inset, and then everything else is kind of hanging off of the bottom. So if you have a larger wrist, and let's say even larger than my 7.5 inch, and you have excess bracelet, it's going to hang off of the back a little bit better, versus if it was the other way reversed, you know, you might have a loose bracelet hanging, which you wouldn't want. So I think that looks really great, and honestly, it works perfectly. Everything snaps in, quite solid. Let's see how much movement there is. There is a touch, I'd say, of shifting around in there. So if I get it like that, and then let's open it. Oh, they pretty much slid back down. But if you go like this, let's say the movement that's there, it's only going to be able to move up until this portion. So that's why it's so important to have that clearance. So as this, let's say they shift, you have it upside down. Now, the good thing is as these travel, they're going to move too. So it's going to stay parallel and it's not going to hit. And there's not going to be any clearance issues, as you can see. Also, cool little detail is that they come with this awesome little pouch there. And not to say that everyone's gonna like need or want this pouch to kind of travel with them, but if you are putting this inside a carry-on, inside a duffel bag or anything like that, it is nice to have that extra layer of protection, just so you can keep the leather portion on the outer shell in, you know, as pristine condition as you would want. I mean, this isn't, again, some crazy luxe leather that's you're gonna want to take on a bunch of patina. You're gonna want to keep this looking nice, but you can also see the details here. Very cool, very nice stitch, very uniform. The hardware, the signage there on the imprint, and then you have, of course, the nice flat bottom, which absolutely works in terms of it not rolling around. And the nice thing is, one, you don't have to worry about it rolling around, but you don't necessarily have to put this on top of your nightstand or at the very top level of your shelving. This can easily slide in somewhere else and, you know, kind of get in where you fit in your closet, to where that can just slide into a space and you know everything's going to be secure. If you wanted to, you could even stack some stuff on top of it. I wouldn't say, you know, in an open space, but in a crowded space like a drawer, you could put this in. You could put other stuff on top of it, other rolls, other size rolls, whether it be like a 3-roll solution or, you know, even a singular roll or something. You're just throwing them in there. It's still going to be fine from that perspective. So now that you guys kind of got the general lay of the land here, let's just check my notes and make sure I covered everything. If there's any other feature sets I do not want to miss out on. In terms of the dimensions on this watch box, it's 9.7 by 10.4 by 6 inches, so 6 inches tall, and then it's going to be you know, 9.7 wide and then 10.4 on this axis in terms of top to bottom. So if that is going to be an issue, I'll make sure, of course, to have that pop up on the screen. Probably now that I'm done shooting this and editing, I'll have that in the beginning of the video so you can scroll back to that if you're worried about size, in terms of if you already have stuff on your you know, your tabletop or nightstand or whatever, and you want to know if there's enough clearance. And then in terms of here, you're going to have 9.5 by 7.5, and then in terms of the thickness there and the height, that'll be 4 inches. And it's, you know, there's not that much to it here in terms of, you know, it's not like these have movements or, you know, any other types of accessories. So it is nice to just kind of see everything opened up and being used, and just kind of being utilized. Some of you are maybe hoping to get a closer look at some of these watches. So let's do that. Let me give it a quick wipe. Now this is on the side of, you know, micro brands that are using really nice Seiko but quite thick chronograph movement there. This is on the racing side, automotive. Very nice. Then of course we have on the diver side, Crafter Blue. They make amazing dive watch straps. And this is one of them, guys. Screw down pushers, so you're not going to accidentally do this underwater. But the strap on here is absolutely fantastic. Very, very comfortable, and what you would expect from a brand like Crafter Blue. A bit of a surprise model here that not everybody knows about, but check this out. This one is by Knot Watches, which is a Japanese domestic market company, and basically they have Zaratsu finishing. Let's give this a quick wipe because there is some fingerprint smudging on here, guys. But even not just the Zaratsu polish, but even the brushing here is to a higher level. That is that fine hairline brushing that you see on luxury watches. You can also see the Dauphine style hands that are multifaceted, like you would find on an expensive Seiko, whether it be a King Seiko or a Grand Seiko. So very, very nice and quite handsome, I think. And some of you are like, oh, it's not that legible. And that's, again, it's because it's reflecting off of, a black camera lens onto a black background, and of course everything else is polished, so that's going to reflect. So in most lighting situations, of course, you're going to have something where that's going to be reflecting a lot more the rest of the area that you're in, whether it be indoors or outdoors. So you're going to get a nice amount of contrast there. And very quickly, of course, the daddy of these, you're getting now a Seiko movement inside of a Seiko watch. Fantastic panda there. It's definitely more on the recreation versus reissue side, but it has a lot of those hallmarks that you love from these references of the past. And I gotta say, absolutely gorgeous. A piece of my core Seiko, premium Seiko collection that I adore and that will not be leaving the collection anytime soon. Although I do have a really cool and quite rare neo vintage Seiko chronograph on the way, which I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys. Now when we get to the Swiss side in terms of being Swiss powered, let's start with the non-Swiss, the German here. Beautiful Archimedes, guys. Hardened steel. This is just, perfect for the kind of EDC lovers. Ultimately legible, functional, and just wow, it's quite a beast. Look at the bevels there, which are harder to stand out when you're all brushed, but even the bevels on the brushed triggers are quite outstanding in terms of that finish. So really outstanding. And then of course a little action there. These are all generally going to be 7750 based Valjoux, or they'll be something like a module that'll sit on top of an ETA three-hand movement, like you're going to find here. You can tell this is a module because when you take a look at the crown, it's slightly lower than the pushers because the chronograph module is on top of the movement underneath, which is a very thin and lovely movement. Beautiful Eterna chronograph on an aftermarket bracelet that just suits it beautifully. Wonderful engagement. Although it is a module, it still works really well. And man, this thing, it just has a really special look to it. Let's just give it a quick wipe here, guys. This is definitely one that I enjoy as well. It's just so different, kind of reminds me a bit of a smartwatch in terms of this, kind of square screen, but then there's a great juxtaposition of the fact that it's completely old school in terms of what you're seeing there, all gilded out on this matted black dial, which can take on warm hues there, almost, a dark coffee at times. So very, very cool. This is actually the only manual wind option that I have currently that's using a Selita-based movement. Nevada Grenchen analog shift. This is a collaboration piece. Absolutely gorgeous. I've been just wearing this to death over the summer because it just has perfect summer vibes and wonderfully milled there. Beads of rice. It's just period correct, and I love it. I mean, it's just really wonderful. It's meant to be a bit of like a regatta timer style yachting watch with the playful colors, as well as the way that it's segmenting out that big eye complication. And yeah, this really hits on multiple levels for me in terms of its vintage aesthetic, as well as modern build quality. That box dome sapphire is just fantastic. The ghosted aluminum bezel, guys, there's a lot to love here. And I know some of you are like, hey, I was just here for the storage, but hey, here's the bonus section. Here is my Fortis. This is a discontinued model and it's on an aftermarket Artem sailcloth strap. This is the Tycoon. This is also a watch that is on a module type of movement. So you're gonna have like an ETA 2824, I don't know, I'm sorry, 2892, and then you're gonna have that thin module on top. So you can see that's why they don't quite align when you look there. And still nice engagement, nice snappiness, very beautiful in terms of its minimalist layout. I love the cream with the gold, and then of course those heated blue accents. So very cool from that perspective. And you can see the time is our gold hands, while the chronograph functions are the blued hands. So also quite functional. Here's one that pops up on the channel every once in a while, guys. And give it a quick wipe. Every so often this comes out because it's just such a cool piece. Little 38mm Hamilton, a little khaki automatic chronograph, and I do have it on this wonderful Hirsch strap here with the kind of hybrid style where it's going to have rubber underneath and kind of like a sailcloth textile on top. This thing is just gorgeous, very, very clean, very simple. And for you to purchase something like this from, like, let's say IWC, you're going to be paying a lot more money. And this has a similar aesthetic, great heritage still. Of course, it is part of the Swatch group now, but you know what? That is just such a versatile, handsome piece. I think this is definitely although it's not old enough to be vintage and it's not new enough to be modern and something that you can just buy right now, I will say I think that this will have legs in terms of collecting. And at the end of the day, it is a very affordable, Swiss Valjoux powered Swatch group watch that has, I think, a lot of staying power in terms of how gorgeous it looks and its aesthetics. The only thing that I wish that it had would be an AR coating, but that is something, hey, most Hamiltons don't have, and that I wish that they did. And to close this out, hey, this is the big daddy of this was probably like the first, and one of the most expensive premium pieces I ever experienced on the channel from Brellum, an independent watchmaker. Really beautiful, guys. This dial is fantastic. Eventually they later on came out with this beautiful break, and it's just gorgeous. And again, the nice thing is with these cushions, if you have a smaller wrist, it will squeeze the cushion, and you have a larger wrist, there's enough cushion there to where you don't have a lot hanging, right? So if you have anything close to 7.5, then this is just going to fit nice. It's just going to snugly fit on there. It's not going anywhere. Even with how top heavy a chronograph can be, it's not going anywhere in terms of like shifting this way or that way. So that's going to be more security when you do have these pieces in the box and everything like that. So wow. So that was an extra long and detailed kind of showcase of these great storage options, with of course a bit of a bonus being able to share some of, I should say some of, all of, at least at this time, my mechanical chronographs with you all. Hey, what's this stopping on? Oh, it's because the there you go. So basically this end, because of the clearance there, that had to clear. So cool. Another thing to think about and be careful of is the clearance on the edges, because this section here is going to be a direct alignment with the uppers, so you don't want anything getting in the way. But these stow away very, very nicely. Hopefully you guys appreciated, of course, that every watch here was in sync down to the second. That's right, yeah, I just had to set all these watches and make sure that they were all nicely timed for everybody. And check it out, stows away really nicely, and again, great for travel, great for showcasing at a little meetup, a little meet and greet watch groups. You have something like this, doesn't stand out too much, quite nice. And if it gets messed up, if it gets scratched up, you're not too worried about it, honestly, because it's a decent price, and it saves more money for you to spend, of course, on your watches and less on the packaging. Of course, there are some of you with much higher end collections, and we'll definitely take a look at some of those higher end storage options. But in the meantime, stuff like this I think goes a really long way. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.